And now, this is a turkey intruder. This is, once again, before we started using ostrich, we used turkey. See the turkey flats? And then, this is a marabou intruder. Why marabou? Well, see all this stuff? We dyed these. But the problem was we couldn't get a good fluorescent set. Just can't do it. I don't know, the commercial guys can. So we couldn't get a good fluorescent set on ostrich, so when we wanted to use fluorescent materials for really dirty water, we went to marabou. Now the thing is, this fly is actually slightly more difficult to cast than this fly because marabou absorbs a lot of water. Ostrich actually will shed most of the water when you cast it, when it comes out. During the cast, it sheds most of it. This stuff holds a lot. Oh, here's one. Does that look like it could be a shrimp or something close? If you're a fish, would you think that may be a shrimp or something good to eat? Oh, I want to say we didn't necessarily. It would be very common to think that, all right, these are always for dirty water. Not necessarily true. There's other places to use a big fly. As an example, you're fishing a run that's 6 foot deep, has tons of boulders that come up within 18 inches of the surface. You know there's fish in there, but you can't swing down to their depth because of all the boulders. Well, the other thing to do in that case is swing a big fly and get their attention. This is a technique that works really well in that situation I just described. So, what I want to do here, like I said, just for giggles, is I want to show you normal stuff before we started doing intruders. We're going to do a comparison here. And I'm going to just let me lay these out. All right, you got those to look at. Check this out. Come on, dude. You know what this is? Winter's Hope. That was a standard size winter steelhead. That's a big fly. Another one. Now here's the famous big fly. Big winter steelhead fly. All right, here we go. GP Squamish poacher type of deal. GP. You need to get the whole thing so that they can see the comparison. GP. GP, a huge GP. I want you to look at GP, huge GP. Not just size thing. Imagine the difference in movement between this fly and this fly. What was way better in my mind, even though not nearly as big before we got on the intruders, marabou. Life. Lots of life in that fly. Just to show you some more. This was my standard size for winter steelhead before getting into the intruder. Look at it in comparison. I don't want to do the super big ones. Let's do. This is a size I use a lot of intruder right there. Look at the difference in size. And it's not just here. Look at it if you're seeing it from underneath. Look at the difference in volume. Look at the difference in volume. All right? So, to cast this stuff, regular casting doesn't work very well, but I'm going to drift off, which is common for me. I have people actually complain about it, but that's just the way it goes. The other problem with standard flies, and this is another reason for developing the intruder. The intruder was developed for fishing purposes, but also another concern, which I'll just talk about here real quickly. Look at the size of those hooks. Look at the size of this hook. Look at, once again, watch shadow. The fly, yeah, huge. These flies literally are grapples. ironically, as a grapple that loses a lot of fish because of the shank length compared to the rest of the hook gap. Couple problems here. Wire diameter, thick wire diameter. When you punch a hole, when you hook a fish on one of these, it punches a real hole in the fish. Number two, the size. And I'm going to show you, I have seen more steelhead. I have bled personally quite a few steelhead when I use this stuff. You don't have to necessarily, I'm going to get into something which a lot of you may, there's going to be people that are going to deny this, and there's just, well, yeah, you can deny it if you want to, but we're going to the real stuff here. You don't have to hook a fish in the gill to bleed them out. All you got to do is be a large enough hook to get beyond the mandible and punch through that cheek. Next time you hook or get a steelhead and look right behind the mandible, there's a fleshy area right there. It's like a cheek. If this hook goes around and goes through the cheek, that fish will bleed like a stuck pig. Believe me, I know from experience, lots of experience. So one of the other reasons we developed the Intruder was because now I've got a fly this big. This, see him? Let's compare it to this guy here. Much bigger fly, much smaller, thinner hook. This hook, finer wire, smaller hole, which has also an advantage fishing because the hook sets on these are a lot easier, a lot more efficient, all right? So the other thing, smaller, does not have the hook gap large enough to reach around entirely around the mandible and punch through the cheek. Can't do it, not big enough. The other thing is, fisherman advantage. If you rig these on a weighted intruder, the old standard way with where everything gets locked in, you lock it in with the hook point up, it'll right over snag so you don't lose as many flies. And here's another advantage. So it's very, I don't know if you'd call it fish friendly, but it's a lot less bad things can happen to the fish when you use an articulated or any, tube, doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be the intruder system, could be a tube system, or you can run a smaller hook. More efficient for hook sets, less lethal to the fish. And here's another thing. Let's say you do hook a fish down in the gill rakers, you get this whole thing here, including the leader. What you do is you leave the hook in the fish. With the old intruder system, you grab your fly, you pull the fly up the leader, you snip the leader off, leave that hook in there, and from what I've been told, after a while, they get rid of the hook on their own. You don't have to get in there and dig around and cause more injury to the fish, all right? This also works in advantage for the fishermen because when you hook a really hot steelhead and it starts jumping like crazy, this fly comes off. Now, I'll tell you what, this is one of the most deadly systems for actually upping your hook to land ratio. Once that fly pops, there is nothing, that fish can't shake this hook, can't do it. There's no weight there, no leverage, nothing, all right? So if you don't want to do it for the fish, there's plenty enough reasons to do it for you too, all right? So that's a little bit of history about Skagit. Like I said, these flies, literally major catalyst for the development of Skagit casting. I'll talk into a little bit, we'll talk more. The reason we had to go to a constant tension cast is because if you do a touch and go cast with a lead-eyed fly, one thing that happens is you never get a, let's say, touch and go. You pick it all up, aerialize it, then literally try to skip it off the water. That's the easiest way to explain it. Lead-eyed fly like this, half the time it skips. The other half of the time, because of lead eyes, it goes toom into the water, and your cast is dead. That's it. If it's a touch and go cast, you're not yanking the sucker out of the water when it dives under. All right? So, the other thing is, when it does that, even when you get a nice, what I was talking about, half the time it'll skip, the other time it digs in and literally you can see what your D-loop tries to form when this fly digs in like that. It just throws a bunch of slack into the whole system. You'll see your line just go, and like I said, your cast is done. All right, you're not going to make a good cast or any cast when that happens. So that's on the other hand, with constant tension, and we're going to try to show this. I don't know how successful we're going to be. The constant tension thing, you always, hopefully you've watched all our other videos, and I know there's a lot of stuff, and this may seem jumbled up, but once again, that's just kind of how I operate, and you might have to watch these things 3 or 4 times to finally get the right piece together to understand it. But you heard me talk about getting the line when you pick up and you set the line, about trying to get the line in close to you rather than out there. And then the all important, I mentioned this a million times, out, around, out first, then around. All right, out first, then around. That institutes what I call a constantly outward radiating force, outward moving. That's what you need to think of when you're going through the sweep with the rod. What happens then, like I said, maybe we can show this, what happens then, because you've placed the fly and the line, the beginning part of the line in close, and you're now rotating the line out and around, you will see the fly comes under tension as soon as you start your sweep. As soon as you start to move that rod, and the key is to make that first outward move. As soon as you do that, the fly comes under tension, and then as you rotate around, you'll see the fly actually stay up near the surface like this, and then right before, if you watch your fly, right as the D-loop gets to the right correct position, you'll see this fly kick around like this, and that tells you when that fly is pointed opposite the direction you want to cast, that tells you exactly when you want to make the forward cast, and then you'll see the fly go. Now then, the reason I say that is because you can Skagit cast the line with a linear, do like a C-spay, which is not a touch and go cast, a waterborne cast, water-loaded cast. You can do a linear instead of coming out, around, and then over without a pause. You can come back, form a D-loop, pause, then go forward. Here's what happens with a weighted fly when you do that. When you come around, pause for the D-loop. As soon as you pause for the D-loop, the fly goes like this. And now, when you go forward, you've got to try to jerk this fly out from whatever the depth that it achieved. Therefore, I'm not going to say when you're using a linear cast with a Skagit line, you can cast weighted flies, but not very well. Not like you will if you get the constant motion thing. Once again, the constant motion, as soon as you start your sweep, that fly comes under tension. It doesn't sink anymore. It kind of hovers until you come around and kick into the D-loop. When you kick into the D-loop, you'll see the fly go like this. Then you hit it in your 4-stroke, and it'll go. It'll be right next to the surface the whole time. It will never have gone down in depth. All right? So we're going to do some stuff later today to try to convey this point. Like I said, I don't know if we can or not. It's a really it's kind of a difficult thing to try to catch on camera, and we'll try. We'll see what happens. I got some teacher's aids. We'll see. Try to convey the illustration or the picture in the mind, but we'll see. Okay.